This is probably getting this borderline unhealthy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Wait until July.
Okay, everybody, it's 9 o'clock, Thursday, March 16th, 2023. We'll call this meeting to order for the Township of Nipigon Finance meeting. We'll start with item number 1. Does anyone have any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item number 2. Minutes, review of previous minutes from January 30th, 2023 was our last finance meeting. Does anyone have any questions or? Okay. Item number 3, finance, 2023 capital budget requests and open house. So we had our open house last night, not very well attended. Staff and council outnumbered community members, but it was a little bit last minute, but we did want to get a public meeting in before we were able to have this meeting today. So I want to thank all the staff for coming out, as well as the council and any community members as well. Okay, and I guess we'll move over to the CAO and he can move through all the budget items.
So in the memo, I attached a summary of the open house. We had 4 residents attend. 3 surveys were submitted. Question number 1, did you find the information informative? Out of the 3 surveys, all 3 of them did find the information informative. Number 2, did staff answer questions to your satisfactions? 2 of the surveys said yes, 1 partially by committee members. Number 3, do you have any suggestions for the 2023 capital budget or for future capital projects in the Township of Nipigon? Comments were windows and good glass for the front of the museum, an accessible entrance to the museum with no twists and turns. No one should be working in the museum alone, and fixed front street potholes. The whole street has to be dug out and rebuilt. Number 4 was any other comments? Commitment to the Bell Street apartments and long-term care sewer elevations. Number 23 is not applicable, not the museum wall. Old Nipigon Cafe and Lane Wall is where they'd like to see the mural. Another comment about the museum mural for the Nipigon Cafe. Playground at NCC and Loftus Lake equipment, and the columbarium, they thought it was on hold. Those were the comments received. So within the capital budget itself, the major project for 2023 is the rehabilitation of Renaissance Street, which includes removal and replacement of the road base and surface, improving the infrastructure for water and sewer, and stormwater management. Public Works Department will be the general contractor on the project with an anticipated start time of May, all weather dependent, frost dependent. Staff will continue to seek funding alternatives for a number of the projects on the 2023 capital draft schedule once council approves the capital budget. Ontario Trillium Foundation has funding available under the capital stream that would assist with a number of the recreation department requests, including possibly playground equipment, diving board. It's mostly for fixed unmovable assets. But because of the current economic climate, the municipality and staff must ensure that we work within the budget approved and not commit to projects that may have to be pushed into next year because of cost overruns or overseen expenses on other projects within the capital budget. A question that always comes up: if a capital item is approved but funding is not received, or for some other reason the project does not get completed, what happens to that project and the money that it was committed to? So of the 24 projects listed, I can confidently advise that a number of them will be over budget, a number of them will be under budget, and very few will be exactly on budget. So what staff does is we track the cost throughout the projects, which requires us and allows us to forecast and estimate total project costs. So an example I put is Renaissance Street. It forecasted as being 10% over budget at the halfway point, so we're 50% way through the budget and we're already 10% over. Staff will begin looking at adjusting the scope of the project if possible. That means maybe taking something out and to try and reduce the potential overspending. But in a lot of instances, this isn't feasible. So staff will now start looking at the capital budget overall to make adjustments within it. The ultimate goal is not to exceed the $439,065 committed from the general fund, because this impacts your overall budget. So if this requires returning to council advising that Renaissance Street is exceeding its budget by $35,000, that would be the 10%. We have to look at finding alternative funding for or delaying or eliminating such thing as the purchase of the street sweeper at 20,000. The scoreboard at 12,000 and sandblasting the pool, which would give us 37,000. We're back on budget. That council can provide the direction on how they want to proceed with that. So when you look at the budget itself, the schedule after the minutes, the first two items on there are half-these. The one item, the landfill site testing, we've been doing under capital now for the last 5 years. And we're looking at moving that into operational, meaning that's something we do every year. It's not a special thing outside the budget. We just got to find a $10,000 savings within the operating budget. Renner Street Rehab, that's a continuation of our road rehabilitation program. Every year you're going to see a road in there, and every year you're going to see the NORDS program as long as it's available. The OCIF top-up funding as long as it's available, and AMO gas tax applied to road rehabilitation. There are a number of roads in Nipigon and the infrastructure underneath that needs replacement improvement. McCurdy Avenue completion. This is the completion of almost going on a 10-year project now. It started with Churchill Street, came up to McCurdy. Councilor McKenzie was involved in that. Got a couple of curveballs thrown at us with that overall project when MTO decided the way alignment of the highway and the water runoff that came associated to that. The removal of vegetation at the top of Churchill Street. So Churchill Street extends right to the highway. So that's not a back lane by my house. That's actually Churchill Street.
Kelly?
Yes?
Is the passcode for the virtual different than what's on the? James can't get on.
Should be. Shouldn't even need a passcode. I don't have a password protected. So that completion, it allows us for deficiencies, allows us to see what happens over the winter. Allows Public Works to give input on snow removal for the curbing. We get to look at the water runoff in the springtime. The contractor comes back. The contingency was built into the contract for this amount of money, so we can address any shortfalls or anything you overlooked during the entire project. Hospital sanitation design, this is on a shelf project, which means this has been on our shelf for a couple of years. When we became aware that the hospital is looking at expanding or applying for possible expansion. We would like to have that design done because they will require improvements or upgrades to their sewer service. The next two fall under the water fund. So the water fund, as you know, when you took the training, the province has basically told us we have to spend money on our water system, which is generated from water billing. These two here have been identified chlorination system. The chlorination system down there is, and we just finished the water report, so staff's well aware that chlorination system, we have a lot of issues with it. The operators have advised that this upgrade is required. And then the water main relining, this is a continuation. It started on Railway Street when infiltration was found on the existing line, but the line wasn't breaking. A lot of the lines sweat, a lot of the lines develop a type of bubble inside of it. So this just basically sends a lining down and extends the life and the quality of the lines. It's way more cost efficient than replacing. There's no excavation, there's no needing to repair the base and the surface of the roadways. This is cost efficient, and this will continue. You'll see this again next year, continuing down Railway Street, that entire line all the way going up First Street. Columbarium. This was a comment made to me last night by a member of the cemetery committee, asking why we're getting a columbarium when the other columbarium's base has to be fixed. There's empty spots. The comments we're getting are that a lot of people don't want to be facing the road, don't like purchasing the niches facing the road. There was a suggestion in the past about turning the columbarium, but a lot of people advised that they didn't want to be facing north-south. They want to be fully facing the sunlight when the sun comes up. So the columbarium right now is cost effective as well. With everything that we see in the marketplace, it's probably best to get this into the budget and bought. We don't have to install it, at least we'll have it. And with the number of increases in cremations as opposed to full burials, we'll be prepared. We won't be trying to get one when we need one. The next is a street sweeper. 20,000. Public Works Superintendent has found 2 of them for under 20,000 right now. That may be efficient. He's gonna go up with one of the Public Works employees to go look at it. One time with a dump box. We have a fleet replacement plan for both the Public Works and for the fire department. This 1-ton dump box, they've been without this piece of equipment for about 4 years. It's an integral part of their fleet, and we put it into the budget this year to get it, so they have that piece of equipment. Biennial bridge inspections, this is a have to. There's 2 bridges that we're responsible for, the bridge that goes over the old CN rail line going down to the dock, and the Bailey Bridge on Mattis Road. So engineers have to go and inspect it and do a biennial bridge inspection. Number 12, the scoreboard, is the original scoreboard. I talked to the individual who operates the scoreboard, that controls the scoreboard itself. It's getting old and outdated. Fitness room equipment, again, original equipment to the fitness room, upgrades are required. This stuff is not cheap. We cannot buy like domestic equipment, we have to buy commercial graded equipment with all the safety features in place. Pool sandblasting. A lot of times we'll just paint the pool. It's a rubberized paint that's it's very coarse. And once it starts breaking off, it gets into our filtration system and it causes all kinds of problems for backwashing the pool and filtering. And with the new filter system, we want to avoid that. So sandblasting, someone comes in, uses sand, blasts all the old paint off, vacuums it all out, cleans it all out, and we apply a new layer of paint. This is something we'd probably be looking at doing every 2 to 3 years. Diving board, original diving board, again, paint's breaking off. The step is, I think, almost like a foot high. We would like a fully accessible diving board. Excuse me. NCC playground equipment. That's again, Mrs. McInnes's generous donation years ago. The equipment there is getting old, but not old to the point where it's not usable. The idea is to replace the equipment at the community center and then move that equipment that's replaced out to Office Lake. Highway Hometown Hero signs, I've already received a quote from an individual who's done signs for us. As you can see, both entranceway signs are very deteriorated. Strategic plan, I spoke with Fednor. There is a huge lineup for funding. Then nothing is promised, nothing is guaranteed. I have spoken to a couple of companies that provide strategic plans. I got ranges for them to provide one. They all fall within the same range, but each company does it a little differently. Youth intern EDC, this is coming from the Economic Development Committee. This is just funding through the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund. They pay up to 90% or 35,000. Youth intern finance year 2, this is Sam and that, we want to continue with that project. Jaws of Life, fire department made us aware that they do have a new repair of Jaws of Life, but like anything, they're not efficient with the new materials being used in domestic and commercial vehicles. Outside wall mural at the museum, just upgrades to the wall mural there. I put 18,000 funding under Fednor. There's an opportunity for upgrades. And then library, new printer and copier, 6,500, that comes right out of the reserves. So we build up the reserve to a certain point. When they get to that point and it meets the copier or piece of equipment she wants, she purchases out of the reserve fund. So that's for a total of $1.26 million in total project costs. Our costs out of the revenues we raise basically through taxes is $439,000.
Well, now we ask questions.
Yeah.
I got just a couple. On the street.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the price is low and everything, but what life do we get out, like even the last one, we had to get 1-2 years?
We get 3 to 5 years.
On those old ones?
Yeah, and last year it cost us $15,000 to have the streets swept by a contractor.
Okay. Did we price out a new one with the reduction town municipalities get?
I'm not aware of any reduction. We've never received a reduction on equipment.
Nothing?
Nothing.
You can, I can tell you for a fact, you can buy a grader, you buy a new one, you'll save over $180,000 on a brand new one. Which we've done before, and by doing that, like what we did is you could buy one, run it for 2-3 years. Sell it for more than what you paid for it, and always have a fully warranted vehicle, a piece of equipment. I don't know how it breaks down on street sweepers and other stuff, But I know municipalities, I don't know, I know when we were down there, we were under the municipal act, you can save that much on pieces of equipment. So just an idea, I don't know, I bet you street sweeper probably minimum would be, you're lucky to get one for 200 grand, I bet you, if you're lucky. So I don't know, you'd have to just weigh out the cost of buying used as compared to buying new. And like, you know, it don't take much now, a mechanic, they're like about a mobile mechanic's probably close to $300 an hour with travel and everything. So just an idea, that's all. And the one time, will we be getting bids from everybody or not? Try to stay as local as we can.
I've already inquired locally,
Mhm.
and then we also looked at locally as being a third-party purchaser, so they buy it from a place so we can get it serviced here. So we're already in talks with that. If they can find us a couple from Southern Ontario, the dealer purchases it, brings it up here, we buy it through them, and then you can service it through them. Instead of trying to find, because we're trying to find one with warranty, you're not getting anything new for 100 grand. We're looking at a lease return, new for that type of vehicle, you're looking at about 180,000, 190,000. But we bought our last fleet vehicle used and it's been great. That's that big green truck you see. And that, we try to find vehicles and fleet things that have multi-use services. So the one that we're kind of have our eye on is an extended cab, 4-wheel drive. Steel box, and this is coming from your crew, steel box, toolbox, the ability to dump, so they can store, they can transport, so they're not taking 3 vehicles to a work site, they have one, they can haul snow with it. But that's what we're trying to do, is I'm working with a salesperson at Brennan's who's trying to find somewhere that's they're able to purchase, bring it here, and then we buy it through them, and then you have your oil changes and your warranty all serviced through the local dealership here.
Yep, Councillor Sakamoto.
Just a couple questions about the different funding pots. So on the reserve fund, the blue on the spreadsheet. I understand with the library that they've been putting money into the reserve fund so that they now have enough money to buy the printer. Are the other items showing in blue the same thing? Has that money been saved, or are they borrowing from the reserve fund?
The borrowing from the reserve fund is the one in pink in the column prior, that's debt. We do internal debt by borrowing against our reserve fund. We set up a payment plan on those where we collect the interest. So
Okay.
we pay ourselves interest. The blue, our reserve fund is probably around 2.5 million right now. That money is all technically spent. So this money here is already designated for fleet.
So the 90,000 for the 1 ton, for example.
Yeah, is in the reserve fund. It'll come out of
So
that.
that's been saved for in the reserve fund?
Yeah, we have 2.5 million in the reserve fund.
Yeah,
So that money all right there is part of the reserve fund. Like that 2.5 million is already spoken to. So we can't go and all of a sudden come up and say, we're gonna do 3 streets this year or anything.
yeah.
Yeah, the reserve fund already has
So
that
you've
there.
been saving up in the reserve fund for something like this?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, and the other, yeah, you said the debt 0789, so you're saying that is a debt, that's like a loan against the reserve fund?
Yes, we
Okay.
borrow from the reserve fund.
Okay, okay.
Councillor McKenzie?
Yes, thank you. CEO, Packanen, on item number 5, the hospital sanitation design.
Yep.
Like I support that because I think we should be shovel ready for when those long-term care beds come available. It might not be this year, it might be 4 or 5 years from now, but at least we would be ready. And then going down to item number 18, the strategic plan. I'm just wondering, should there be grants available for something like this? I understand that there may be. And also I would really like to encourage like the participation of Parks Canada. And if we're going to be doing a strategic plan, because I suspect that a lot of it is going to be geared towards our waterfront development. And I just has there been any discussion, say, with Parks Canada?
I met with Parks Canada last week, I believe, and I think part of that conversation, it was touched on about strategic plan and potential assistance with it. Speaking with the people or the companies, I can't remember the one name, McSweeney, sorry, I talked with McSweeney. I talked to 2 local companies in Thunder Bay, And they all recognize that Parks Canada, the protective area and the interpretive center are playing a big role in the strategic plan. So once that happens, if you see the plans that the companies provide to you, it's listed right in there that entities that have an impact on Nipigon will be basically not consulted, but part of the process. And that's up to council how they want the process to go. Regarding, community engagement, do you want to sit down with, selected community groups? Do you want a survey sent out? And they're the professionals, they're able to tell you because they've done them in Red Rock, Terrace Bay, Marathon, how, in the past, what was most successful and what did it work? Because you're trying to look for as much feedback as possible. So you'll get a number of proposals. Like I said, they all seem to do it a little differently, so it'll give council an idea of which one you want to pick to move forward with.
Okay, and then the other item number 14, 15?
Yep.
The diving board, I guess the pool is near and dear to my heart, and I know that diving board, I've watched little people try to climb up on that board, and it's extremely difficult, and oftentimes a lifeguard has to help the child up, or a parent or a guardian has to help the child up. So there is a, it's a slippery surface when it's wet, and I don't know, I would like to see something done with that diving board for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just, I know it was in between our last meeting and this one, and we haven't seen the minutes yet, but I understand that the rec committee had some, a list of, they prioritized basically the list that was here, and I thought it would be a nice, out of respect for the rec committee to maybe follow their priorities and.
Yeah, so I have the priorities here, which were discussed at the last recreation meeting. So priority number 1 was the scoreboard, which we have here on our budget. Number 2 was sandblasting the pool, which we have on the budget. Number 3 was the swing set and swings for the NCC Lock West, which we have in the budget. Number 4 were change rooms for the pool, which is not on the budget. Number 5 is the diving board. Number 6, new surface of tennis courts, which is beyond our budget. I believe it's not in the budget here. Number 7 and 8 were the baseball field, so the dugout and the bleachers. Number 9 was the fitness room equipment, which we have on the budget here. And then I think there was a discussion at that meeting that would be part of the operating budget. So would that be? Yeah, the fitness room equipment. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not. CAO, no, okay. So that was their last priority was the fitness room equipment, which we do have on the budget, so.
I think they did very well.
Yeah.
And one other little, I know, and the last time we met, the museum had a wish list besides the wall mural. And that's gone. Everybody's okay with, you're on the museum council,
Yeah.
Kenzie?
Thank you. Yeah, the wall mural, that's been a thing kind of the past. And I don't think there's really any real emphasis to do that at this particular point in time.
Oh, right now, that's the only item
Yeah.
on the budget. But the other items that the museum had are not on the
Yeah,
budget.
well, the other items, I know they had like a board that they want to do on the inside of the building there. And a couple other items like a fire alarm system and, but really the mural, I don't think is a priority right now.
That's good to know.
There was funding to cover 18,000 of them. Potentially. On the spreadsheet.
What is the CMHC?
No, that's it, Fednor. That covers
Oh,
Fednor.
okay, sorry, the colors are. Yeah, again, if we're asking FedNor for, sometimes the way it works is if we're asking an entity or an agency or something for funding. Sometimes we gave you funding for this, we might not give you funding for that, so we just probably prioritize what we're asking FedNor for. So if the wall mural is not a priority for them, we can look for the next time. That one. Does anyone have any other comments?
I guess on the Parks Canada issue, have we even got a building permit for this year for that?
Not that I'm aware of.
Another question?
Counselor Sakamoto?
Okay, I hadn't seen the youth intern for EDC before. I know on EDC committee, we've talked about either a contractor or a full-time. I still would support a full-time EDC person.
I can comment on that too. I would rather see, instead of, an intern, I'd rather see someone that has experience, who can hit the ground running.
That's,
Yeah, because the part of the, when you're hiring someone for the internship, it specifies that this has to be their first and only experience in this field, right? Because it's supposed to give them new experience in a new field. So,
That's why I kind of try to push
yeah,
contractors that have done this for a very long time.
a contractor or an employee or something, yeah, instead of an intern, that would be my my advice as well. And we do have new staff in the office already that are learning a lot, as well as an intern who's learning a lot too. And we had another person in the mix who needs to be trained in learning. That might, I think it might be counterproductive. So that's just my 2 cents on that. The second year internship for the finance, I support. The recreation, I believe that all except for item number 17 could be looked up for the Ontario Trillium Foundation funding for the capital, which comes up in June. And I believe that, as the CEO was saying, there doesn't seem to be any rolling stock in there, so it seems to be that almost everything in there could be funded through that, through their active people fund, the capital. Yeah, almost everything is a need, right?
Yeah.
So, Councillor Sakamoto?
Sorry, one little thing, then I'll keep my notes. We had talked in the fall about an asset management plan at the marina. Right, the committee to help us get our planning and what's priority and getting fixed.
Yes, that was my suggestion. Thank you for bringing it up, because I totally forgot about it, but I think it's really, really important. Yeah, and it's not in the budget. So either that's something that we add in as another, but we'd have to find some funding for that, or that's something that we might look at for next year. And I really feel strongly that that has to be done before we look at $3 million to build a new dock. I really feel like there's got to be a plan in place with engineering, electrical, taking into consideration the Parks Canada building, the camping, movement of traffic, who's gonna do, where's everything gonna go, how is it gonna work? Including, of course, the coastal area with the finger docks. Do we need new finger docks? Do we really need that size of a dock there, or can we have it smaller? What are the needs? What are the wants, right? I think that's really important, because $3 million is a huge investment. We're gonna have to pay a lot of that out of our, not a lot, but some of it out of our own pocket. And it's gonna be a major project. So I think just rushing in and going, let's build this new dock without a plan, might be worth, I know it's condemned, or dock is condemned right now, but I don't know, rushing into it might not be good. I think Councillor Hart had.
Yeah, just on the recreation scoreboard thing too, is there are most likely community sponsors that could actually go into specifically the scoreboard as well. A lot of the rinks do that kind of thing, that brings that budget down potentially somewhat, which means you're applying for less money, or you can apply that money towards something else, especially if the Trillium is putting in money towards it. So it's something to look at, maybe put out for sponsorships levels or whatever, where you get your company logo or whatever on the scoreboard, or in a plaque beside the scoreboard, something like that. And I'd use the scoreboard. And it needs to be replaced 10 years ago.
Councilor McKenzie.
Yes, with that asset management plan, and maybe I'm confused here, would that not be part of the strategic plan?
No, so the land asset management plan would be, it's more of sort of an engineering, like you have, sort of like urban planners and engineers that look at, it's not just sort of pie in the sky, wouldn't it be nice if we had this without realistic planning? It's, you know, options for different docking systems, depending, like, and with costs, real costs associated to it, right? So I remember our last marina plan that happened, I want to say 12 years ago or something like that. There wasn't really any, there was general costs associated, but it wasn't like line item costs with real quotes and things like that. Like I was saying, it's a more focused and detailed, so the strategic plan would probably mention that we need to have some planning done for the marina. Because of the, you know, the need for the new dock and the more traffic that's gonna be coming down there because of the Discovery Center, et cetera, et cetera. So it wouldn't be part of that, but it would be mentioned in the strategic plan that needs to be looked at probably.
So what do they cost?
About the same as a strategic plan, because there's a lot of detailed work that has to be done for it, yeah. Gordon?
Yes, again, with that land asset management plan, then could potentially Parks Canada be a partner in that?
I think so, yeah, I think so. I know that they have helped with other communities in doing them, however, those other communities are local services board, they're not municipalities that have a tax base. So, I think that they would, I can't speak for them, but they could be approached about helping with a portion of it financially, for sure.
Okay.
I know that they've set their budget for this upcoming fiscal. It's worth a try to approach them, but I don't know if they have any money left in their pot, because their new fiscal starts April 1st. And I know that they're approved of projects already that have been proposed to them, so. But like I said, I'm sure they might have some pot set aside for emergency projects. If we go to them, that might be an option for sure. I know, the CEO said, I know HFC doesn't do strategic planning, but they might do something like this. The red funding might have been an option for this, but that deadline's passed, so. But there's a lot of money for planning out there, because a lot of the government agencies now, they require planning to get this stuff done. And I know before, I can speak for Silver Islet, when Silver Islet had theirs done, they couldn't get any money to do anything. And then they had this document to show that they have a plan, and they started getting money from the Thunder Bay CEDC and $40,000-$50,000. I mean, it's small potatoes, but it's something, and help them with their finger docks, right? So I don't think we're gonna be able to develop our marina all at once, all in one season. I think it's gonna have to be done in pieces, just because of the costing and everything, but I think having that plan in place first is vital.
I gotta not disagree, I agree with the plan and everything, but until I see a shovel in the ground from Parks Canada, I think we're just wasting our money. Because without them, that's the key to the whole thing down there, and right now, they've been stringing everybody along for 16 years. It could be another 5 years before they actually, like, that's why I asked, do we have a building permit down there? Not even 5 yet, so there's a good chance they won't be building again. So then we're gonna have to think, what are we doing? We're gonna wait another year. And I think they should be notified, and they should have to be put on notice that, when are you doing this? Instead of stringing the community along. We're waiting for stuff that could happen down there. We can't do nothing until they tie it in.
Maybe if their building isn't happening, they'll have extra money to
Yeah.
help go into the asset management.
I think we gotta come to a point where one of these,
To get them to start participating in some of the stuff, because we're operating blind.
we gave them land and they haven't done a thing.
Exactly.
We put, what do you call that, what's, I keep forgetting that word you use it on, like we did on the old theater, and we put all those, what's that word, Kelly? Covenant, and these guys haven't done a thing. They haven't done nothing here, like, and I just, after a while, it irked me, because I was one of the ones that signed the papers, I think it was 2005. That they were coming, they were doing it, yeah, we're here, we're still here, still nothing done on it.
Right, so we don't have an update from them, but maybe we can direct the CAO to contact them for, well, but he met with them last week. Did they have any kind of update on the building?
I didn't meet with anyone involved with the building. I met
Okay.
with somebody for projects.
Okay, so maybe we can direct the CEO to reach out to who's involved with the building, I forget the fellow's name. And then see if there's any kind of update that they can get us. I know they were putting it out to tender, that was back in January, the last time I think I spoke to them.
I mean, you'd be getting in now, they should have an application in for a building permit by now to build this summer.
I think so.
All right. Okay, so we have our comments. What do we do now? CAO, can you advise us on what we do now? We just start striking things off, or what do we do?
Yeah, you have to decide as a council what you want on there, what you want added, but I'll advise that 440,000 shouldn't be crossed.
Yeah, keeping that in mind, absolutely. Okay, so let's go line by line, guys. Number one, landfill site testing, that is imperative. We can't strike that, so that stays. Landfill groundwater sampling, correct me if I'm wrong, but that has to stay. Renison Street rehab.
I got just one question on that, Kelly, when they do it, are the landowners, say if their culverts aren't the right height, are they gonna have to do it themselves to put it down to the right height for road conditions?
I don't believe that will even be a factor in any of it. The road height and everything is not changing.
Okay,
Yeah.
no, I just wondered, cause I know the culverts goes back to the landowner now.
Yeah, we won't be touching any of that type of stuff. The height of the road, the only thing that might be adjusted is the crowning for the stormwater runoff to get into the ditches more accurately.
Yeah, but when you do the ditching, it could mean some culverts might be that much above your actual, when you clean out the ditch ways.
Yeah, the ditching will just be grunt, so the vegetation will be minimized
Yeah.
because you don't want standing stagnant water, but besides that, you won't see much changes after the shoulder of the road.
Okay, I just wondered because in case some are higher and lower.
Yeah, and if that happens, that's the type of thing, like I explained in the memo, that we'll adjust for accordingly. Those
Yeah.
type of things are gonna pop up when they open
Yeah.
the road, you're gonna see all kinds of different things.
Okay, so now Renison, I'm just going back to my memo here. Renison is a project that we are, yeah. So we're agreeing that Renison's a go. McCurdy Avenue completion, that's probably a must do because it's a project that's gotta be completed. You can't just hang it in the wind. Hospital sanitation design.
Yeah.
I agree with that one too. Okay. Chlorination system, yeah, water, important as we found out in our training. Water main relining.
I had mine done last year, it made a huge difference with the amount of rust that was in my water.
Excellent. Columbarium. There's, yes,
Perhaps we could put that in advance,
in a what, sorry?
like postpone it.
But it's
It's-
not actually showing up and out of the general fund.
Yeah, see, there's,
It's all-
it's not coming out of the fund, right? So that doesn't add into our 624,000 that we've got right now, so,
Okay,
yeah,
yes, sir.
yeah. But I guess, the 25,000 reserve could go somewhere else then, right? Is that how that works? No, okay. So we'll just put like, I'm just gonna make a different symbol there because that's, doesn't come out of our budget, but. Street sweeper. I feel that's really important because just spending $15,000 a year on someone to do it. Doesn't make any sense.
A savings in operating.
Yeah. 1 ton with dump box. It sounds like they've been needing it for about 4 years and we gotta get those guys what they need to do their job.
And it sounds like you're doing it in a good way to save money, but get us some good equipment.
The bridge inspections again was a must do. You can't not do that. Recreation items. Like for me, when I spoke about the OTF funding, the hometown hero signs would not be covered under those. I believe. So if we do get funding for the rest of the stuff, that wouldn't be covered, and I know that they look really bad. But when we're looking at priorities.
Yeah.
That might be one that we move on to another year or maybe wait for some funding. I think that the RED grant, the Rural Economic Development Grant might look after that. Again, so that might be something that we're, quote, shovel ready for next year to be looking at the RED grant for that, if that's something you wanna look at. How's everyone feeling about that?
If we got the trillion grant for everything else but the signs, that's $34,500.
Potentially, yeah.
You won't get funding for the sandblast.
Nope, they don't do like a process thing like that.
It's just non-movable fixed assets. OTF.
So potentially just under 30,000.
Sure, yeah.
But I can guarantee you that 30,000 will be eaten up by other projects overrunning. Like, for example, like Council Pelletier said, Renaissance Street, we may have to replace culverts if something happens. We may dig up the road and find that there's a crossing from 1942 that we didn't know about. There's another $10,000 to $15,000. That's where I'm saying is be very diligent in understanding that these are best guesstimates, the majority of them. The ones we can control are, you know, the 1-ton dump box. We know we're not buying something over 100,000. The street sweeper, we're not getting anything under 20,000, over 20,000. The building inspections, excuse me, the company already provided the quotes. The hometown hero sign, the company has already provided the quotes. Strategic plan, I've talked to 5 companies, they're all in the $60,000 to $70,000 range. The design for phase 2 at the Bell Street building, that's again, an estimate based on the design at the, Public Works Garage. The internships, we know those costs. That's what I'm saying is that just be very aware that this budget or this draft of a budget was designed to try to plan on things that maybe we can push to next year if other things start overrunning.
Can we, like, I'm not really sure how it works, so so as Kathy did her math, there are $30,000 of recreation equipment that may not be absolutely necessary, but can we just, approve of that on a spec that it be paid for at least at 90% by the Trillium Foundation?
Well, that would be,
And then if we don't get the funding, we don't.
well, that would be applicable to all the things with funding. The only approved funding we have right now is for the 2 road projects, pretty much.
Right.
All the rest is, we don't really technically apply until it's approved by council.
Right.
Because I hate to pull an application when a funding agency's 3/4 of the way through it. This is why we need approval from council, so I can start moving ahead with this stuff. And then if we do need cuts, you know, council, we could advise council that, you know what, the full sandblasting can wait a year. We could do 3,500 of the playground equipment, replace one and then move it to the next year, and then you'll see that move forward to the capital budget the next year. So that's how I'm trying to explain about, like I put in the memo, 10% of that one budget is 35,000 on the road. So if there's 35,000, that would be culverts and gravel. So that could easily be incorporated. So that's what I'm saying is this was put forward with things like the have tos, the want tos, and the love tos, right? We try to get things in there to appease each department, each committee, each subcommittee. It's just, that's why with the recreation wish list, you don't see the change rooms in there because there's no way it would fit. You don't see the surface of the tennis courts or the baseball field. But what we'll do then is, maybe we can't fix the entire change room at the pool, but in the operating budget, we'll try to get a chunk out of their committee, put in new sinks or and stuff like that. But then bring it to council with a reduced amount, say it's 30,000 requests this year and we got 8,000, we'll come with 24,000 next year.
Councillor McKenzie.
Yes, just getting back to your comments there on the pool sandblasting.
Yep.
I know the previous council they approved a major upgrade to the boiler system in that pool.
Yeah.
So to me, it makes sense if you invested, I'm looking at the number, I think it was around $80,000.
Yeah, 94,000 altogether for boiler, filtration and pumping system, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, we put in that kind of money, I think we should maintain the pool.
Yeah, so that sandblasting is the preventive maintenance schedule that was suggested towards us. We brought a guy in from Guelph who's a pool expert, who gave us this how to make this thing last as long as possible.
I got a question, Kelly. It didn't, like your major on the list there, 624. But then you take off the water fund, we're really 439, so we can almost approve everything here and be within the range you wanted, right?
Yeah, but like I said, though, I mean, I have to budget, we have to spend this money.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have to spend 440. That's in order to get our budget to zero or perceived zero,
Yeah.
right? That's why we did the budget we can, but I also need from so I'm not going to Shane and Shane's telling me, listen, we're done 70% of the project and we only got $10,000.
Right.
I have to have wiggle room and all this type of stuff, right? So I don't try to we don't have to buy the scoreboard in June or July or August. That 12,000 can sit there, and if by August and he's wrapping up and he's like, listen, I'm at like 365. We're already 15,000 over. I'll come to council and say, listen, I can't get the scoreboard this year, but our main goal is to reach that 440,000. That's why I'm trying to leave wiggle room. Because we do know every road project we have has gone over budget, every single one of them.
Well, and we always try and do some planning for things could go a little over or a little under, so I hope that in some cases there are certainly overages, but there are also some efficiencies in other places. I'd hate to lose all of our recreation things because of.
Well, I think it's been established, you can't really lose the pool sandblasting. Like that's something preventative and will extend the life.
And I guess my
And
thought,
it's not necessarily canceling them, it's maybe putting them off a little until, and plus, like some of this stuff, like I said, the scoreboard, I'm pretty sure you could probably get that almost
Really?
community funding if you given the lead up time to do it. So put that off till later and start trying some of these other methods, the different funding methods, and then effect.
well, I think we're kind of saying the same
Yeah.
thing. I'm
Oh, yeah,
thinking
just different ways.
So we know we have this amount that we're trying to reach. If we take 30,000 of the recreation, if there's other sources of funding for that. I would like to see us try and get some other sources of funding. Because I think the Marina Asset Management Project, to get that going, we know the marina is important for our town, for economic development, to get people in here. I'd like to see us get going, find some way to get rid of money to go with that.
I'd like to see that too, but to be honest, until we figure out what Parks Canada's doing, like.
But maybe they will kick in, like maybe they only have, even if they don't, they maybe would pay half of the
Yeah.
asset management
Yeah.
plan and we could get going
That's-
on
But the
it.
timing is
Alternative
key,
funding.
as I was saying, the timing is key, and they're setting their budget, if they haven't set it already.
Yeah.
So it might have to wait till next year, we're looking for funding from them. So, I'm sorry, but I'm still confused, so if all of these things, except for the sandblasting and the hometown hero signs, can potentially get funding from the Trillium Foundation, would that not be indicated in, see like how you have under the strategic plan, you've got 5,000 CFDC possibly and 63 from FedNor. So if we put these amounts at 90% to be funded, that would take money down from our general fund, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
So it basically
But
deferring it to there,
90% of
which frees up that money for their.
yeah,
If we're successful.
if we're successful, yeah.
But I'm trying to give council a clear picture of how close to the 440 we're budgeting.
Yeah.
But I'm also being realistic and saying that 440, the way this stands, you're over it already.
Yeah.
And when Councillor Sakamoto says about efficiency and planning, that's why Renison Street, we're having Public Works Department do the work.
Yeah.
If we had a contractor doing it, you're doubling it.
It's what we need basically another 40,000 to give that
But
extra.
we'll find that within this budget.
That's,
Because we can say, okay, well, then let's apply to the Ontario Trillium Foundation for that extra funding.
Yeah.
If we need to find it, right? That stuff doesn't need to be purchased today.
No.
Right? That's why we have to do asset replacement planning.
Yeah.
Not when the truck dies in the middle of Front Street and go buy a new one the next day.
Yeah.
We're replacing things along the line. right?
you're basically triaging, you're putting off what can be put off for a little while.
And we're guesstimating, right? So when
Oh,
we
yeah.
buy a truck, we say 6 years.
Yeah.
Like, for example, a simple thing we do, we buy a new riding lawnmower every 3 years. After 3 years, the riding lawnmower that isn't dead, it's at the end of its acid management life.
Yeah.
We donate that to the golf course and we buy a new riding lawnmower, right? Because the golf course doesn't use it as much as we do.
Yeah.
Right? That's like everything here. But what we identify is the bigger projects, right?
Yeah.
At the top of the mountain is your street rehab, and it's gonna be for the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
You just gotta drive around Nipigon. We dedicate a lot of the funding, and the funding that's dedicated there, the NORS, the OCIF and gas tax, tells you you can only use it for certain things, and roads is at the top of the list. Because every town you drive through, Thunder Bay, everywhere, the roads are getting full, right? So we do that, but one thing we do that other places don't do is, we don't just replace the road, we dig down to the assets underneath. Because they're 70 to 80 years old. We don't know what we're gonna find there. There's no records, there's no anything to tell us what's under that road. We've dug up places where there's been crossers, there's been sections. I was telling Shane that at one point they dug up a road and there was just a pipe, no connection on either side of it. So you don't know what you're gonna hit, how much clay you're gonna hit. You may be planning on doing 6 feet of road base at 100 loads of gravel, pea gravel, and all of a sudden the clay now is another foot down. There's no point in leaving that clay, you gotta take it all out, right? So that's why our best estimate on past practice, adding inflation and everything is $350,000. If everything goes right.
Yeah.
The other stuff, like I said, there's some stuff there, if council wants, and I'm not picking, because recreation doesn't mean that's the thing that might get pushed to next year.
Yeah.
But if there's funding available, then that opens up 90% of $30,000, right?
So that would be like if funding's available and we're successful, we do those, and if we're not, it gets pushed to next year,
Or,
except for the sandblasting.
or if we're into August and Shane comes and says, listen, we're on budget. It could work the other way too. He might say, listen, we're only gonna spend 90% of the budget. There's $35,000 left over. But I can guarantee you it's gonna be eaten up within these 23. Yes.
Yeah.
We will do everything we can to get to 440 and everything we can to stay under 440. We do not want a surplus and we don't want a large deficit.
Okay, so the recreation stuff, we just agreed that the sandblasting is important. So we
If
keep that
that's
in as
keeping
part of the
our
maintenance.
new, brand new equipment, pumping equipment safe, yeah.
The hometown hero signs can be pushed off, because I don't believe there's much funding that we can access.
Well,
For 7,500 though, I mean, like the 5,000 and the 7,500. I wouldn't concentrate on those small amounts. The ones that I would look at are like the ones that have the big impacts, like the 60,000 and the 20,000. Like the sandblasting, if it's something that's recommended every second year, we're gonna end up working that like we are the 10,000 for the landfill site testing into our operating budget, because it's something you have to do.
Yeah.
You know, it's a part of your regular, even if it's biannual, it's part of your regular maintenance program.
Yeah.
I know from feedback from the community that those hometown hero signs. There's lots of comments about them. But it's up to council, if you wanna take that one out, you're saving 7,500 on 440,000.
I just feel like there's possible funding that we can get for those.
but in which case you leave them, you just say that come August, if we need to do,
Yeah, you prioritize what you can.
exactly. So that's what we're looking at.
Yeah.
Right now is prioritizing what potentially to cut.
Yeah.
If,
I would prioritize cutting that one. I don't know how many, so that's fine.
I wouldn't say cutting, I'd say putting it off till maybe August. Maybe look
Defer.
at it in August.
Defer,
When you say cut, it's cut.
Well, and maybe-
defer.
Maybe that's where
Defer.
if there's funding for 18,000 of the 20 for the outside mural for the museum, there's certainly funding, us paying 2,000 would be not that investment, but if we have to cut something again,
And if we don't get the funding, we don't do it.
yeah.
That's another deferral, right?
But then you'll see it again next year. So there's things on the public works budget that's been there for, I bet you, 14 years. Like water and sewer to the highway has been on there since 2005 or 6. You'll continuously see that, but every year it goes up 4 million, 6 million, 10 million.
Okay, so we're through recreation, economic development strategic plan. That's a priority in my books. Design for phase 2 Bell Street building.
Oh, did we agree that we're keeping strategic plan?
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear
Yeah,
any, I didn't hear any comments, so I just.
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering, like, you know, there are so many things right now, we're sitting on the edge of the mill, all of these, the Parks Canada, all of these things, how, like, you know, maybe, how do we fit them in a strategic plan when they're a question mark?
Well, that's what the plan's for, right? So. Consulting all these, like the private businesses, as we reached out to the lithium mine fella out, in, going up Highway 11. The local business people, community members, agencies like Parks Canada, stakeholders. All those people are involved in that strategic planning, so that we can establish our priorities, so we're not throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks and just going, oh, this happened, we gotta fix this, da, 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 da.
So this would include our housing and
Everything.
industrial park and that
Yeah.
kind of stuff too.
So basically, you need a commitment to say we're going ahead before you apply for the funding, or we defer that one. And on to initially getting the funding.
Council directed me already to put in for phase one funding. I don't usually, like I said, I don't usually do that. I've never done that before, but because of the circumstances, I put in for phase one already. I spoke to Fednor, not our regular rep, he's on this comment somewhere else. And the person who's in his place laid it out and said that they're inundated with application requests right now. And there's no guarantee that we'll even hear back at this point or anytime soon if we do hear back. So that's the reality of all the funding places right now. Everybody was inundated with funding requests, and that can all be attributed back to COVID. Everybody's trying to get started really quick.
The fact that we haven't had a strategic plan done in a long time though is in our favor, and that I think we need one. We have a lot going on, you know, with the mill site, with Parks Canada, all that kind of thing, and I think that. If we're approved for phase 2 for that, if all those factors are placed in that application, that we should be successful. I mean, it's not guaranteed and nothing's guaranteed. And most funding, agencies or programs are highly applied for. So it's,
The problem arises if the funding doesn't come.
Yeah, we can't
We
afford
can't
it.
absorb a $63,000.
Yeah, but I'll be looking for other places for funding, but I don't want overlapping and then get 3 of them approved and go to 2 of them, we don't want it.
Yeah.
That's why I stay in touch with Fednor, because as soon as they can tell me, listen, Kelly, it seems like it's gonna work out.
Mhm.
Then I'm on to other places, right?
Yeah.
We have multiple, like I said, with the fitness room equipment, the OTF is sitting on my shelf. There's a draft of it already completed, but I'm not gonna submit it if it wasn't approved by council.
that deadline's in June anyway, so. Okay, so strategic plan. We get the funding, we go ahead. A design for phase 2 street building. Bell Street, sorry, $25,000. Any comments, Councilor McKenzie?
Yeah, I think we should leave that in. I mean, eventually we'd like to develop the Bell Street building to its full potential, right? And, you know, if we're gonna do that, it's nice to have have it designed and ready for
Shovel ready potential
for whoever wants to come in and help us out there and do that project. And I believe we're even talking or have requested an audience with the Ministry of Infrastructure about potentially.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think they have any funding for that,
I
but
don't know.
That you're talking the old separate school, right?
yeah, the thing.
When I was talking to people last night there, and they said the deal we got with that was bad. With the people we have as our, what would that be, our manager?
Property manager.
Property manager, so I'd like to look at that, if there's a possibility we can look at it, how we're sitting on that. How we're sitting on it, because apparently we own it, but he manages it, and he says everything which goes there, so I don't know how that works.
There's a 20-year agreement. He manages for 20 years, then the property gets transferred over. In the meantime, he's the property manager, we're the landowner. I've looked at the contract probably half a dozen times in the last couple of weeks. There's, I mean, it's signed, it's in place. I don't have any comment.
So what you're, I guess what you're almost saying, if we decide to move ahead with this, we've got to deal with this guy for another
Yes.
15, 20, whatever years are.
Yes,
And we're gonna be held under that agreement.
as of right now, yes. But all funding, like the rapid housing initiative that just came up, everything in the funding for housing has the words shovel ready.
Yeah.
This can be a design that may have to change because there's new legislation or new requirements for HVAC or air movement in institutions or places such as this multi-res. But at least we have something on the shelf that when we're ready to move ahead, we can, it's another step towards being shovel ready. We did have a contractor early last spring interested in looking at it. First thing he asked for was plans. So we don't really have any, we have rough sketches of what we'd like to see there, but this is actually engineered plans that, we would have done and be able to put on the shelf.
What say would he have in it, Kelly? If you're saying we're the landowner, but if he's the building manager, would he be the one that manages the sites as to how they're built?
I can't comment on that right now. I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, just I know in the stuff we've done, if you own the land and the guy's the manager up top, he'd have to be involved in the designs that are being done. I guess, I don't know, like, I've never done this part of it this time. Just look from other times. Like, no way, I think it's great, we need it, for sure, big time, we need that place done.
Well, that's the thing is in speaking to, a hospital representative, having more accessible seniors apartments takes the load off of the LTC waiting list. So,
And it potentially opens up houses within the
Yeah,
community. and
which
so-
it did. It proved that it did do that, whatever the need was, it did what it was supposed to do, and we have, 7 full apartments.
The big thing is to have it shovel ready, because if that funding's available and you're shovel ready to go.
Very competitive funding market too.
Yeah.
I still wouldn't mind having a look at the agreement, because we can maybe try to get ourselves out of part of it if it's that bad. I don't know if it's locked in for, like you said, 20 years and you got nothing you can do, you just contribute to that guy's pocketbook. But, okay. Let's see.
Counselor McKenzie,
We might be contributing to his pocketbook, but we have four apartments there, right, that are being utilized. And
7.
anybody that's in the house rental business know you have to make a little bit of money on it. Respectfully said here.
Yeah, no problem.
and there was we did get $500,000 funding from, DSAP for that, so there was for, affordable housing. So there were some stipulations in there about agreements and, all that kind of thing. I'm not privy to the exact details, but there were some stipulations in there that came along with that funding, so.
But just one further question on the design, like on that, on the design phase there, Kelly, could that if that was done, would that not entice the contractor that dealt with that building to maybe, take another look at it and proceed with more apartments in there?
Could,
It was a private-public partnership, so we did put, investment into it.
And then we had others that contributed to that facility too, right?
Is that what you mean, Ben?
So, okay, thank you.
Okay, so where are we going with the design for Bell Street? Do we wanna try and keep it in? There seems to be no funding for it, but
We do have, yeah, it seems to be really important to our citizens.
Well, it's
to move
every,
ahead with
most of the
this.
meetings we've had, the discussion is housing. That's where everything goes
Yeah.
to.
okay,
Outside of the infrastructure, of course.
There's a lot of verbal support in town for the project.
okay, number 20, youth intern EDC. So this is an economic development internship through NHFC. Do we have any comments about, well, we had
I
comments
think the
about
comments
this.
we were having earlier is, and like you said, like, so it might be better to go with experience, but
We'd have to look at the operations budget to see what we have for that position.
now can this intern money be from NOHFC moved into something else?
That would be, I think that's the funding that you would get from an OHFC, $35,000, that's through their talent, people in talent program. So that's not coming from us, that's coming, that would be.
Yeah, that's what I mean, but
Yeah.
could it be, instead of youth or intern EDC, youth intern somewhere else that it may be needed?
Recreation or something like that.
I have been a call into NHFC regarding this because I always have to ask the question. I 99% sure that you can have two interns at the same time in different
Mhm.
areas. It's not technically an EDC intern, it's a special events intern.
Okay,
So the idea was to have them get involved in community groups, Gale Fishing Festival, Hike for Health, Blueberry Blast, and that, and start learning, you know, funding applications and that type of stuff, right? Because
okay,
everywhere across, I met with an entity that we contracted out yesterday, who's doing a tour of the North Shore. One of the communities next to us, their employees are coming and staying in Southern Ontario remotely. It's not easy to attract anybody, so if we can get someone and homegrown them. Right,
Yeah.
it's easier.
yeah,
Councilor McKenzie.
I support the intern position because it's somebody is better than nobody.
well, the way it was just explained to me there, like that.
Yeah.
That's a lot different to me.
You know, I wouldn't have someone come in here and start managing the department. This is more of an opportunity, hands-on learning that they
And
actually can live off of.
Potential for a large community development, kind of like with, like you said, the organizations and stuff within town,
Yes,
and then
and learn through that.
you just.
If we have the capacity to have them learn, to train them and teach them, then I would support it, if there's the capacity.
But I mean, that's also involves with a lot of the community and stuff as well, like the community organizations and whatnot, as well as just having somebody here to teach them.
But also, for example, our community rec director
Yeah, that's
put
right.
in 50+ hours yesterday running events.
Yeah.
This for $10,000 can alleviate
Yeah.
that amount of work.
Yeah.
And at the
Oh, yeah, that's what I-
Recreation
yeah.
might need some support, absolutely.
And at the same time, can start learning jobs on experience.
Yes, and that's where, like, the way it's being explained now is different from what I envisioned in
Yeah.
like youth intern.
Okay,
And it's a lot of funding available, so.
so it's not, what you're saying is not an economic development intern, it's more of a
Well, it's
special
called-
projects or something.
Well, it's always, there's never been an EDC youth intern that I can find. It's always been special programs, special projects.
Yeah.
And that, so that's what it fall under. But the diversity that NHFC opened up in the last year or two for these internship programs, like there was never a finance internship before.
Yeah.
It was always the special, and then they've extended the age ranges and then lessened the requirements. So it allows a kind of a bigger window for people to come and get on the job skills.
And like you said, that change in it actually does, there would be more than qualified people
Yeah.
within the community.
It used to be you had to have graduated within the last 3 years from University of College, now there's no requirement for that at all. I don't even think there's a requirement for a degree or a diploma with
They've been
this at all,
moving in
there,
that direction.
yeah, because of the job market, right?
It would be helpful for us if we could see the description of what that position would be.
But
Oh, yeah,
I
from the sound.
think from the sound of it,
Yeah.
like what you just explained there, and then basically it opens up to. If there's a need for them, they can fit in there as well, so. Whatever they can be taught.
Yeah.
And
I would-
trained
like
up.
I said, yeah, I would
Local.
support it if there's the capacity to train them. Okay, so is everybody okay with that one then,
Yes,
or majority, yeah, okay. Youth intern finance year 2. Questions, comments? We're good with that one?
Good.
Jaws of Life, $18,500.
Yeah, that's a fun, if they get the funding, that's big.
Okay. Okay. And then the others, so that we said the outside wall mural could wait, be deferred, I mean.
Sorry. But if they're able to get the funding. They do have a go ahead. Or is that?
There's no
capacity?
real place that has been designated to put it. It was originally kind of slated to go on the wall of the Nipigon Cafe, but you know, the ownership of that building has gone up and down like a yo-yo. So The mood that I get from the museum committee is that it's really a non-issue right now.
Okay, so it's not replacing the one that's on the museum?
No, there's a bulletin board that
Okay.
they'd like to have replaced for
Yeah.
$1,000 or something,
Oh,
so.
inside the door, but there are
Yeah.
potentially, from the comments that were brought up last night, other issues with. And with the museum board too. Other things that take a priority over.
So that saves us $2,000.
Hey, it's $2,000.
Prior to you being on council, Councilor Hart, I did advise council that there's a number of studies that have been completed on the museum and the occupational health and safety study, the fire study, and we're just doing a structural study on the actual building itself. We are aware that there are certain things. We had a tour with administration from the Thunder Bay Museum. I'm working with Scott Bradley, who's the manager of the museum in Thunder Bay, to work on a contract on the operations of the museum. They've provided numerous suggestions to myself, Mr. Swainson, and Mr. Leal, moving forward, because we have a strategic plan in place for replacing the curator, which does retire this summer. It's just, we have to address the building and the use and the occupancy of it. So there's a number of items that they've requested, a fire alarm, improvements to the doorway and that.
Yeah,
First, we gotta figure out the have-tos of that building.
yeah.
And it's already a long list with the two studies, the structural ones. Shane will get that in place. We need spring because they need to expose.
Yeah.
Something, right? So.
I'll put that today.
All right, so we've gone through our budget. The next steps to have the budget approved.
A recommendation from this committee to have their budget approved as amended. I'll provide it at Tuesday night's meeting, and then you pass a resolution and approve it. We can get started on a number of these. They can start purchasing they can start purchasing stuff for the Renison Street rehab. I can advise McCurdy Avenue completions, then you can start setting dates, meeting with the contractor to get the deficiencies in there. We'll start arranging for a number of the companies for RFQs out for a number of the design stuff. The managers will take these for each department and start prioritizing and kind of getting dates of when they're gonna address this stuff. So like landfill site testing, it has to be done when the snow is gone, groundwater sampling has to be done when the snow is gone. Renison Street rehab, you can get underway, starting to purchase stuff and arranging for excavator and that type of stuff according to our tenders that were received. Contact all them. McCurdy Avenue completion, like I said, you'll get a hold of the contractor to start addressing the deficiency lists. Possible sanitation design, we'll put out tenders for that. Because it is over the 50,000 chlorination system, we'll put out tenders for that. The water main relining, we'll put out tenders for that, but I'll tell you right now, we'll get one quote. There's one company that does it, who's done it the other 2 times. That's up to council then to either accept that or not. Columbarium, we'll put out the quotes. Street sweeper, well, it's under 20,000. I think it's best that we just sole source buy this, meaning that we find one in Thunder Bay and buy it, which we found 2 in Thunder Bay already. One time at dump box, like I said, I'm working with the local car dealership on that one. Shane, I'll pass that off to you, give you all the contact information. Biannual bridge inspection. There's a company that does it, so we'll contact them. Scoreboard, I do understand Councilor Hart's point about getting community sponsorship. I can tell you our sponsorship for the Winter Carnival was down considerably. We will. Councilor Pelletier can speak to this. He did the fundraising for the ice resurfacer. It's not easy to get.
Oh, I know,
Yeah.
but if you have the longer period of time.
Yeah.
That's where it comes in.
So what I'll have is at the next rec committee, the cultural rec manager presented a line for this stuff that takes place. So people aren't expecting a new scoreboard, for the last junior big game. Fitness room equipment, well, then they'll prioritize what needs to be bought. She does have a list of the stuff that's there. It's considerably way more expensive than it used to be. Full sandblasting, that'll be arranged. Diving board, she's got quotes on the diving board. That's where she got these numbers from. Playground equipment, again, identifying what can be replaced and moved to Lockless. Hometown hero signs, I do have quotes on that already. Strategic plan, there's quotes. I'll send out an RFP for that. Design, I do have a company that provided this pricing. I can touch on base with a couple other companies, but we've used Tomlinson for a number of designs and they're excellent. Youth internship, I'll put in the application, the two youth interns, I'll put in the application, Jaws of Life, the application's already into TCT, so it's Trans Canada for Emergency Services, I got that in already. Outside wall murals taken out, and then I'll let Sumi know she can go ahead and get her printer copier, because I think she'll tell you right now it's on its last name.
Oh, she's totally.
Yeah, she's really babying it, so.
I actually relied on the library.
In the minutes for the finance, you'll see the recommendation from finance committee to move ahead with the attached capital schedule. At the council meeting, then you'll pass a resolution approving it, and Wednesday we can get started on all this.
So
Counselor Sakamoto, you have the floor.
just so will there be any attempt to do some Trillium applications for any of the recreation stuff?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll put those in, and then advise council if we're successful or not. But again, that doesn't open up to adding more recreation department stuff. No, that'll be then kind of a shortfall. Like, for example, if a culvert needs to be replaced, he's not pinching pennies on everything will start with the Renison Street rehab. There's gonna be other ones that maybe the quotes come in at 65,000 for the hospital sanitation design. We can move that money around. My ultimate goal, like I said, is to stay at that 440 range. And we'll do everything we possibly can to do that. And there might be hard decisions down the line of cutting things that we just approved, so.
Okay.
One question, in regards to that, do I talk to you, Kelly, or Shane, in regards to those opportunities that are out there for townships for discounts on equipment, maybe trucks, everything is out there?
To me.
To you?
Yeah, to me, and then I'll take the information and look into it. I've never been aware of that type of stuff.
No.
It always seems like we're paying more than less.
Yeah.
But if we find those opportunities, then, you know, cause Shane will be, this Renison Street is building up a lot of the time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pre-planning that's involved in this. It's a lot of ranging from making sure Public Works holidays correspond with the days he needs a full crew to do certain things. So I'll take the information and give it to him, and then I'll look into what you provide as well. Yeah.
Anything else, anybody?
Could we have a more, like what you just explained there about that intern?
Yeah.
Is,
I'll provide it for your next EDC meeting.
thank you.
Yeah.
All right, seeing no other comments, number 3B, Tourist Information Center discussion. So, myself and, Councilor Pelche requested the Tourist Information Center be included, and it was recommended, by the CAO that we have the discussion in the finance meeting. So currently the TIC is occupied 1 day per week for chiropractic services on the basement level. No inquiries for the use of the building. The current and future use of the building will be included while discussing the 2023 operational budget. Past council discussed the sale of the property. The sale appraisal at that time was approximately $400,000. Operating expenses of the building range from $25,000 to $40,000 per year, depending on use, summer students, maintenance, utility, etc. Okay. Any discussion?
What's the condition of the infrastructure that's underneath it?
Good. Yeah. But if you could see the second page I provided to you is what I provided to council. Previous when they were investigating selling the building. They passed a resolution just to investigate the sale. I spoke with the current tenant there, who requested to speak about that. Realty provided a verbal quote, which I already provided. I had contacted a number of commercial building inspectors, and the price was about 800. I would say it's probably around 1,000 now to get that inspection done of the building. They'll do a full infrastructure and operational inspection. It takes an hour, hour and a half. It was budgeted in 21 for 31,000. The expenses were over 40,000, but at that time we were paying the company $1,000 a month to be in there to operate it. So you take 12,000 off that. Revenue is minimal, interest is even less. We're using it right now as a secure storage for overrun of filing here. There's a brand new furnace in top that we put in, 6,500 last year. The water system, it's on a well and a septic field. The water system is brand new. We haven't had barely minimal issues. There's some maintenance things, paint needs to be done. Cost to the township for selling it would be moving that sign that's in the front. But I advised last council, and I'll advise this council, say you get $400,000 worth for it, and you get all of the taxes and stuff to rebuild that is way more than anything you're gonna get back. And you lose your only highway commercial piece of property. But that's, again, I just have to provide that information to council. As clerk, my job isn't to provide opinion,
So,
Or anything
it's
or
zone commercial.
it's own highway commercial, yes, but. Highway commercial allows a lot of different uses, just like down here, you can live on Main Street. Cause we have a mixed use here, which sometimes works for us and works against us.
Yeah.
But in the end, I have to provide as much information to council as I possibly can on the tourist information center. And that's what I have to do.
What are the parameters of the Tesla contract for that property? Is that maybe-
So that's something that I've been looking into. They get best right now.
Well, there's no contract that we have on file for them.
Because we're talking about an identifiable, I will provide council an update on Tesla very soon. I just need to look into something. We do have a contract. We know we had an initial contract. I just have to look into our abilities in that contract, if that makes any sense.
Okay, Counselor.
Yeah, I have a question in regards to that, like, what's the sense of us having commercial property if we're not getting any revenue from it? I just missed that part, like, why, if we sell it, get somebody in there that's gonna utilize it, could be employees. Tax base for the town, I just see no upside of not selling it, like, we keep it there, it sits there, deteriorates every year. It's costing us 40,000 a year, I'm going like this, where's the balance here, and I don't see any, my opinion as
It has-
business,
Yeah. It
as
has
a
to be used
business.
For something.
it has to be sold, or else. And what are we gonna get into, a lease arrangements, the town wanna start owning buildings and leasing them? I don't think we should be competing with business people in town already, who have paying taxes that are into the bit, maybe they'll buy it and lease it out, I don't know. That's my own opinion. I just think it should be put out for options, if there's any buyers out there. And we were gonna be getting a revenue instead of every year paying.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
I don't know about like the purpose of having like maintaining an asset on the highway. Like I said, maybe I'm missing something as well. But if for some reason we can't sell it or it's difficult to sell, or we do see a value of maintaining that asset. There is possible, there might be someone who might be possibly interested in, they don't wanna buy, but they wanna lease and. I'm identifiable person, so I'm not gonna discuss the name of them, but I think that's something that could be looked into just to see, cause I'm not sure about. It would have to be, the building would have to be renovated by them, it's a franchise, so the building would have to be renovated by them to franchise, whatever stipulations and, yeah. So that's a possibility, or the sale, but I agree that something has to be done because it's just, without anything, like, well, say for a rental once a week. It's not, prior there was a tourism entity in there who was, helping tourists and sending people into businesses and things, but with there being nothing there, something's gotta be done. So that's just so if you're thinking caps on.
Well, I think going through with a inspection of the building is your first step, because then. Like a proper, what's needed and stuff like that, because then if somebody is interested in that, even for leasing, you have that, you
It's
know
ready.
it's there.
Or shovel ready. is what
Yeah.
we were-
We didn't proceed with the inspection because the community pushed back on council.
Yeah.
That was the direction of council not to proceed at that time.
The town, our first decision is, do we still want to own property on the highway?
Well, I think in that
Or-
case, we would have to, because our big Nipigon sign's right there.
No, you move it if you sell it. Yeah.
Well, or you can stipulate within it, a block off, like it's.
That would be tough. You're dealing with the highway corridor, then you're also dealing with their septic.
That's, yeah, the second.
And then you're required certain amount of highway frontage and everything to maintain the use. There's issues,
I
like
forgot about the septic.
the issue that would come up is that there's a single highway entrance off that. Almost impossible to get another entrance, so some of the commercial use. To turn off onto Matta's Road, you might have to look at possibly widening the road depending on the use and stuff like that, so. The first step is the appraisal, second step would be engineered inspection, which it sounds expensive, but it's like I said, it was 800 in 2021. You're probably looking at a couple more bucks right now. That way, then council has all the information in front of them to make a decision moving forward.
I would be open to anything that doesn't cost us $25,000 to $40,000 a year with no value. Very little value, yeah.
I agree.
Councilor McKenzie.
Yeah, I agree with Pierre. I think that, the building has run its course, you know, with modern technology, nobody picks up brochures or anything. And the only real building,
I'd argue that.
the only, yeah, okay, in my opinion, people stop because there's a washroom there. And, you know, perhaps,
It's like I can
can
tell
I
you,
finish?
Yeah.
Perhaps, you know, if we do sell the building, we get some money from the building, we could, you know, do something in town to, you know, encourage people to come downtown because we have facilities here. But, I know former councilors were pretty adamant too that, you know, we'd like to have property that we can get a taxation base from. You know, and it's a continuous thing. It happens every year, and, so that I personally, I would support the sale of the building if we can do it.
Councilor Hart, did you have a comment? Yeah. So would we want direction given to staff then to?
You would make a
proceed?
recommendation as the committee, to
Okay.
go to council.
Okay, so I'd like to, or would someone like to make the recommendation? Pierre would like to make the, Councilor Pelletier would like to make the recommendation to send it to council.
Investigate the sale of the tourist information center. That would include arranging, probably, I would advise another assessment. It's 2 years since the last one. Doesn't cost us really anything.
Yeah.
And then to then proceed with an inspection of the building.
Yep. Yes, agreed, yeah. Anyone to second that? Councilor McKenzie. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Any other business? We have scheduling of the next finance meeting.
One more, I talked previously to CEO there about the sale of the takeout center in regards to this finance. I would like to, an update on how that's going and if, well, what's our steps as council in regards to that? That's,
So is that a question you have now, or do you want to move that to the next?
well, no, we're in
council meeting?
finance.
Okay,
Cause I've been
sure.
asking my other one, I get moved to finance and this, so that's good.
We
Okay.
proceeded under the law, we legally, once it reaches certain point in taxes being in arrears, we are obligated under the tax sale process to put it up for tax sale. We did everything according to the tax sale process. We did have a successful bidder. We have to, basically, we accept the costs, and then they have to go into negotiations with any other parties involved in the sale, which we're sort of privy to, but we're not, but we haven't had any notice that the sale has been finalized to date.
Councilor Sakamoto?
Are there will there be covenants then on that? Or it didn't come back?
No, it's a tax sale. So tax sales, we don't have anything. The amount that's paid for the property is the amount that's outstanding in tax arrears to us. Anything over and above goes into the courts, and anyone who has an interest in the property can apply to the courts to get that money. We just get our taxes.
So when do things come back? So if nobody buys something on a tax sale, then it
Then
comes
we
to the town?
No, not necessarily. Then I would come to council, and if we look at it, I don't want to really give too many examples because I don't want them associated with this sale. How can I do this? Once we do the process of the tax sale, we do the advertising we require, and I think it's 3 weeks, 1 week in the Ontario Gazette, 3 weeks in the local paper, I believe we advertise, and then we advertise it in other places. If we don't have any successful bids, that doesn't mean we don't have any bids, but if we don't have any successful bids, meaning they don't bid the minimum price, or we get a bid and, you know, it just, the financing doesn't work out, whatever. Then it comes back and it's sitting there. We can re-advertise that for the next 20 years. Or the township can do something called vesting, meaning the township takes ownership of the property, but do we want it? If it's a decrepit building that needs to be torn down and they owe us $8,000 in taxes, we're not gonna pay $20,000 to tear it down. So that's what I bring, then I start doing a decision on, this is what the building is, you know, there's a number of things that need to be fixed, blah, 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 blah. Council, you know, we either vest it or we just leave it up there for tax. That's the process we go under. We're not ever legally obligated to take ownership of property, and technically we shouldn't, like Council Pelche said, and I think Council Hart touched on. We don't really want to own anything because we don't get anything. It costs us money, it doesn't make us money. So that's why every year, and you're going to see in the operational budget, I will be bringing forward, here's our excess. And it'll show the surplus, so Public Works Superintendent Cardy. On a minor level, will be selling excess docks, excess equipment, because it sits there, it just costs us money or deteriorates in thing, but that also applies to buildings. You know, I'll bring it saying, this building costs us this amount of money. And this is the revenue bringing, this is the difference. So unless we can somehow up the revenue, or we don't need the building for anything, and I'll show all the operations, what goes on in the buildings and stuff like that. We don't want to property, because we want a bigger tax base to bring in more revenue to lessen the burden on the current taxpayers.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you.
Councillor McKenzie?
Okay, thank you. We are talking about the drive-in, that property out by the highway, okay, just for my own clarity. Thank you.
Okay. Any other business from anyone else? Okay, so it is 10:30, and so we can adjourn the.
Finance meeting.
Oh, sorry,
Finance meeting.
yeah. All right. Next finance meeting. See you.
You guys tell me, we can have the operational budget probably ready middle of April. I would say now that we got capital finalized, yeah, we can have it probably the first draft of it middle of April. So let's say the week of, what would it be?
Some of us are away at Good Roads. I believe that's the.
Yeah, that's,
So what about,
16th, 17th, 18th.
so what if we do like the 23rd or 24th of April?
23rd is a Sunday, 24th.
Noma is probably,
Noma is the weekend of the 28th. right?
Just so council is aware,
Oh, it's the 26th.
operational budget isn't usually passed until like June.
Yeah.
Because there's just so many moving parts to it,
Yeah.
like we're still getting expenses from 22 coming in, so.
So we can do it on the 24th or push it into May. Those are our two choices,
Do it the 24th.
which is a Monday,
A morning meeting?
9 AM.
Sure. Council chambers.
Yeah. We're gonna check their schedules just to make sure.
It's just tentative for right now, and things change.
Okay. 9 AM. And so I think that's everything then. And so it is now 10:32 and we will adjourn this meeting.